What did Lewis and Clark crave? They crave fatty meat. Now, I'm going to be reading some notes, and I'm going to be reading it directly from their journals. So they called things differently back then, not Native Americans, obviously Indians. So when I read this stuff, just remember, I'm reading it from their journals in their words. There were three main people that did all the recording, Lewis and Clark and John Ordway. Now, John Ordway was a U.S. Army sergeant who was responsible for issuing provisions, assigning guard duty, and keeping records of the journey. And he also kept the most records. And the interesting thing is, he was also a cousin of my mom's, of course, about 6 generations ago. Us carnivores are on the right track. And when you think about these guys on their trip for survival, and the things that they ate to make sure they had the optimum health they could when they could achieve it, I really hope you find it as fascinating as I have. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chad. Been doing this carnivore journey for 3.5 years now, lost over 100 pounds, experienced incredible improvements in my health and well-being, and I'd love to hear your stories as well. All right, let's go. They mentioned blubber 20 times because they did get a bunch of whale blubber at one point. They mentioned lean about 26 times, 2 of which seem to be like they leaned it on the fence post. They mentioned jerk, almost always in jerking the meat they would have that they would dry. And bread, I do want to bring that up because the bread wasn't what I thought. But they did mention that 133 times because they traded quite a bit for it. Salt was mentioned 293 times, but fat was mentioned 252 times. Now, they talked about fat buffalo 75, fat elk 97, and fat deer 126. And one that's kind of sad was fat dog 54 times. Now, one thing you might not know about me is I'm a photographer, and actually pets were part of my passion that I photographed. I'm going to put some at the end. Stick around for them. I can say, trust me, they're going to be pet photos that I think you're going to really like and are not your typical pet photos. Now, really quickly on these breads, I got to say that it's almost like they were keto before keto was around. The 2 breads that stood out, as I read this, some of the words again are tough to read, so forgive me as I kind of struggle with some odd words. Now, the 2 breads that stood out to me were, their bread is made of roots, which they call comus, and which resemble onions in shape, but are of sweet taste. Their bread is manufactured by steaming, pounding, and baking the roots on a kiln they have for that purpose. The other one, they make much use of the sunflower and lamb's quarter seed, as before mentioned, with which berries and wild cherries pounded together compose the only bread they have any knowledge of or in use. I think this is important, how little they valued lean meat. They did not like it, did not want it. The elk I killed this morning thought it fat, but on examination found it so lean that we took the tongue, marrow, bones, and skin only. Here's another one. At the place we halted to dine on the large side, we met with a herd of buffalo, of which I killed the fattest as I conceived. Among them, however, on examining it, I found it so poor that I thought it unfit for us and only took the tongue. Another one here from April 25th, 1805. In our way to the place I had determined to encamp, we met with 2 large herds of buffalo, of which we killed 3 cows and a calf. 2 of the former were but lean. We therefore took their tongues and part of their marrow bones only. I then proceeded to place our encampment with 2 of the men, taking with us the calf and marrow bones, while the other 2 remained with orders to dress the cow that was in tolerable order. We talk about bone marrow and we talk about eating these fatty things, and here they are doing the same thing that we probably would have done, is looking for the best pieces, the fattiest pieces, to get the nutrients that we need. Our fare is the flesh of lean elk, boiled pure water, and little salt. The whale blubber, which we have used very sparingly, is now exhausted. On this food, I do not feel strong, but enjoy tolerable health. The diet of the sick is so inferior that they recover their strength but slowly. None of them are now sick, but all in a state of convalescence, with keen appetites and nothing to eat except lean elk meat. For my own part, I have become so perfectly reconciled to the dog that I think it an agreeable food, and I prefer it vastly to lean venison or elk. But to the points of fat being good in their journals. On the 8th of March, 1805, Number of savages continue bringing corn and fat dried buffalo meat to get blacksmith work done. What I'm assuming is pemmican. July 31st. A fair day. 3 hunters out this morning. Jay Drewer killed a very fatty buck. 1-inch fat on the ribs. The Indians were very friendly and had given them a considerable quantity of the blubber of a whale, which perished on the coast some distance southeast of them. Part of this blubber they brought with them. It was white and not unlike the fat of a pork, though the texture was much more spongy and somewhat coarser. I had part of it cooked and found it very palatable and tender. Commenced the making of salt and found that they could obtain 3 quarts to a gallon a day. They brought with them a specimen of the salt, about a gallon. We found it excellent, fine, strong, and white. This was a great treat to myself and most of the party, having not had any since the 20th. I say most of the party, for my friend Captain Clark declares it to be a mere matter of indifference with him, whether he uses it or not. For myself, I must confess I felt a considerable inconvenience from the want of it. The want of bread I consider as trivial, provided I get fat meat. For as to the species of meat, I am not very particular. It's just interesting how you can tell even the breads, they don't care. They want this fatty meat. I really hope you found this kind of interesting. I think we're on the right path to fatty meats as carnivores. And stick around for those dog photos. They're coming up. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, please hit that subscribe if you haven't. Please hit the notification, the bell. It'll help me out and spread the word. And please leave a comment. Did you like this? Did you not? And what would you like to see on this channel? Stay carnivorous, my friends. And a hui ho.